The morning light fell through the marble columns of the Supreme Court like a spotlight. Everything looked calm from the outside, but inside something unusual was happening. The halls were filled with hushed voices, nervous glances, and the steady clicking of heels moving faster than normal. Security guards stood straighter. Reporters stood by the gates, whispering into their phones, eyes scanning every car that passed. Justice Amy Coney Barrett sat in her private chambers, dressed in black, her face unreadable. Before her lay a thick file stamped classified. NSA oversight. Her hands rested lightly on the pages, but her mind was sharp, focused. She had just signed a motion that bypassed every lower court rare and shocking move. It was aimed at one man, Robert Dero. Dero wasn't just a Hollywood actor. He was a public voice, a sharp critic of the federal court system, and lately, a thorn in the side of the political elite. His documentary, Shadows on the Bench, had gone viral within days. In it, he accused the Supreme Court of being a political machine dressed in black robes. His most recent CNN interview still echoed across social media feeds. The bench is not blind, it's just looking the other way. Those words had stung. And now they had consequences. Justice Barrett stared at the TV mounted in the corner of her office. The clip was playing again. Dero in a dark suit, calm but angry, looking straight into the camera. She muted the screen and returned to the file. Inside were surveillance logs and essay recordings, message intercepts, and private emails. The targets were journalists, professors, and cultural figures labeled as media disruptors. Robert Dero's name appeared 12 times. The oldest file was from 2007. One memo read, "Subject exhibits patterns of narrative. Influence capable of undermining institutional trust." Barrett closed the file and turned to her legal assistant. "Seal the motion. Let the others know. It's moving forward. No leaks." But it was already too late. Outside the court, reporter Lisa Montrose stood just past the police tape, typing furiously into her phone. She had received a tip from a source inside the Department of Justice. A high-level motion, unprecedented, targeting a celebrity critic. She didn't have names yet, but she knew it would be explosive. At noon, her story went live. Breaking. Supreme Court Justice files direct motion against actor-activist Robert Dero, experts stunned. The internet caught fire. Within minutes, Dero's name trended in 20 countries. Hashtags appeared. Hashtag DAIROV's court. Hashtag speech on trial. Hashtag judicial overreach. CNN, MSNBC, BBC, even Al Jazeera broke their normal programming. Outside the Capitol, a crowd began to gather. Some held signs. Others just watched in Los Angeles. Robert Dero was in a recording studio finishing a voiceover when his assistant ran in, pale and breathless. She held up her phone. They filed it. It's real. And they leaked something. He scrolled through the news, silent for a long time. Then, with a strange calm, he typed a tweet. It was never about the judges. It's who they serve. The tweet hit like a spark in dry grass inside the White House. Aides scrambled to prepare statements. In Congress, a few members called for investigations, while others cheered the move. One senator said on Fox News, "It's about time someone stood up to these celebrity anarchists." Back in the Supreme Court, Justice Barrett's assistant returned, visibly shaken. "There's a leak. And the media has part of the NSA file." Barrett stood slowly. "How much? Enough to start a fire?" Her fingers tightened around the edge of her desk. She knew what came next. Questions, protests, maybe even chaos. But she didn't waver. "We proceed," she said. "Let them scream." Across the city, television screens flickered to life with panelists and pundits. Some defended Barrett's move as brave. Others called it authoritarian. A former federal judge warned, If this continues, the courts won't be a place of justice. They'll become weapons. In a small basement newsroom, a young journalist named Mika Chen studied the leaked NSA file. Her eyes scanned the section on media surveillance. She found something that made her blood run cold. Her name. And below it, an audio log from 2015. She pressed play. A. Voice Mika Chen continues to publish on judicial bias. Subject has contact with Robert Dyro's publicist. Recommend continued monitoring. She slammed the laptop shut. This wasn't just about Dyro. This was bigger. Much bigger. Meanwhile, in a secured server room deep beneath Capitol Hill, two IT workers stared at lines of code being deleted remotely. Someone was wiping files. One looked at the other and said quietly, "This isn't damage control. It's a purge." The first part of the motion had been filed, but no one was in control anymore. Not the court, not the press, not even the intelligence agencies. Something had broken loose. Something that wouldn't go quietly. That night, Robert Dyro walked alone through his garden. A soft wind moved through the trees. His phone buzzed again and again, but he didn't check it. His eyes were on the stars. He remembered what his father once told him. If the truth ever becomes dangerous, you'll know you're doing something, right? And now truth was dangerous again, ChatGPT said. The lights inside the CNN studio were bright and cold. Everything was ready. The camera angles were set, the countdown was running, and the control room buzzed with quiet tension. Tonight's guest lineup was more than controversial, it was explosive. The show's host, veteran political anchor Alana Ruiz, looked into the lens and smiled tightly. Good evening, America. Tonight we ask, is free speech still free when power feels threatened? She turned to the stage. Sitting calmly in a tailored gray suit was Robert Dyro. His face was composed, his hands folded, but his eyes held something sharp. A storm waiting. Dyro had agreed to appear live, against his lawyer's advice. The closed-door motion filed against him by Justice Amy Coney Barrett was now the biggest story in the country. And yet no court dates had been announced. No charges. Just silence from the federal judiciary and noise from everywhere else. Across from Dyro sat Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, a rising political voice known for her straight talk and sharp mind. She had publicly defended Dyro earlier that day, calling the court motion a political missile dressed in legal robes. Alana welcomed the two, then dove right in. To Dyro, the Supreme Court hasn't spoken yet, but Justice Barrett's motion accuses you of trying to destabilize constitutional order. What do you say to that? Dyro leaned forward. I say the Constitution's not broken because of me. It's cracking under the weight of people who treat truth like poison. The audience was silent. The control room paused, listening. Alana nodded and turned to Jasmine. Congresswoman, you've backed Mr. Dyro publicly. But do you believe the court is acting outside its role? Jasmine spoke clearly, with no hesitation. This isn't loot's fear. They're afraid of someone pulling back the curtain. And when courts start chasing critics instead of criminals, that's not justice. That's panic. Before Alana could respond, the studio producer whispered into her earpiece. She froze for a split second, then recovered. We have a surprise. Guest joining us live via satellite, she said. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. The screens flickered. Greene appeared, seated in front of an American flag. Her smile was wide, but her eyes were sharp and unblinking. Well, well, she said. Robert Dyro, the actor turned rebel, and Jasmine always playing the hero for cameras. Dyro didn't flinch. Jasmine didn't blink. Alana raised her voice slightly. Congresswoman Greene, what's your response to tonight's discussion? Greene chuckled. Response? I think it's cute. A Hollywood millionaire crying about justice while sipping imported tea in a penthouse. You want to be taken seriously, Robert? Stop pretending you're a victim. Dero stayed calm, not pretending anything, speaking about what's real. Greene scoffed. What's real is that you've built a career pretending. Now you're pretending to care about the Constitution. How convenient. He glanced at Jasmine, who gave a small nod. And then Dero turned toward the camera, his voice quiet but firm. I don't care what you think of me. But if pointing out corruption makes me dangerous, then maybe your definition of patriotism needs work. Greene's voice grew louder. You're not pointing anything out. You're trying to burn the whole system down. People like you and your friend Jasmine are the real danger here. If you want to shame the court, for what? For doing its job. Alana interrupted. Let's keep this civil. But Jasmine had already leaned forward, eyes locked on the screen. No, let her talk, Jasmine said. Let America see what cowardice looks like when it wears a flag as a mask. Greene froze. For a beat, the studio fell completely silent. Jasmine continued. You call this justice. Dragging someone through secret courts without trial. Leaking. Government files when it fits your side, but crying foul when truth leaks out on you. If your idea of freedom is silencing critics, you're not a lawmaker, a threat. Greene began to speak, but Jasmine raised her hand. If you mocked him because you're scared of what happens if people actually listen, you think fear keeps order, but all it does is wake people up. The studio audience exhaled. Alana tried to regain control of the segment, but the momentum had shifted. Clips of Jasmine's response were already being clipped, shared, and subtitled across social media. The hashtag Jasmine Clapback was trending within 10 minutes. Marjorie Taylor. Greene's connection suddenly went dark. In the control room, the director whispered. She pulled the plug. Lana turned back to her guests. Rain fell lightly over Washington as the city braced itself. It was the kind of gray, quiet day that made secrets feel heavier. Inside the CNN newsroom, senior producer Nolan Harris stared at the screen in disbelief. The email had arrived without warning, no subject line, no sender ID, just a file attachment titled OP_spotlight_07_memo.pdf. He opened it. 12 names appeared, highlighted in red. At the top, Robert Dero. Below him, journalists, professors, a musician, and 3 foreign diplomats. And at the bottom, his eyes froze. Jasmine Crockett. The attached memo was dated May 17, 2007. Top secret classification. It outlined an NSA program called Operation Spotlight, internal surveillance initiative targeting influence actors, capable of disrupting institutional trust. It had run for over a decade, quietly observing anyone with the power to shift political narrative through mass appeal. Nolan called his editor immediately. This is real. And Jasmine's name is in it. By noon, Jasmine sat in a private CNN office, eyes locked on the printed pages. The air was thick with tension. Her aide Malik stood in the corner silently. Jasmine read every line without speaking. Her name came up 6 times, flagged for speeches, interviews, even college articles she wrote years ago. She looked up. So it wasn't just about Robert. This was always bigger. Outside, reporters were circling. Cameras followed her every step. Protesters clashed near the Capitol. Some held signs reading, "Truth is treason." Others, "We are all spotlight." Now, across town, in a soundproof office inside a government building, a man in a dark suit slammed a folder onto the table. Who leaked it? The agents around him stayed quiet. No one answered. That same hour, a second leak hit international channels. German and Brazilian officials held urgent press briefings, revealing their diplomats had also been monitored under Operation Spotlight. Washington's allies demanded answers. The UN called for a special meeting. Global tensions rose fast. At the Justice Department, pressure mounted. The Attorney General issued a vague statement. We are reviewing the documents, origin and authenticity. But no one believed that. They were buying time. Back at CNN, Jasmine prepared for her next appearance. Okay. She didn't want to go back on air, but silence now would look like guilt. Robert Dero was unreachable. His last known location was a private residence in Maryland, now surrounded by federal agents and reporters. When Jasmine finally stepped into the studio again, she didn't look shaken. She looked sharper. The interview was live, and this time, the questions were colder. Congresswoman asked Alana Ruiz, "Have you ever communicated with foreign diplomats listed in the Spotlight memo?" Jasmine nodded slowly. "Yes. As a public official, I've met with diplomats. It's part of my job. But I didn't know I was being watched for it." "You're denying any improper connection?" "I'm denying that speaking truth is a crime," Jasmine said. Saying this clearly, if our own government treats its citizens as enemies for thinking differently, we've already lost. Moments later, Marjorie Taylor Greene held her own press conference outside the Capitol. She was louder this time, red-faced and defiant. Jasmine Crockett is compromised. Greene barked into a dozen microphones. She's on the spotlight. List for a reason. She's been working with foreign operatives, and now she's panicking. This is bigger than politics. It's national security. One reporter asked, "Isn't Robert Dero on that list too? Are you accusing him as well?" Greene smiled tightly. Dero's a pawn. Jasmine is the player. The statement spread fast. Within an hour, a letter from Greene's office was sent to the House Oversight Committee demanding an investigation into Jasmine's potentially treasonous ties. Jasmine's team got the news seconds after she left the studio. Her aide Malik read it aloud. "You've been referred for inquiry under section." "Let them," Jasmine said. "They wise?" "A hearing? I'll give them a hearing they'll never forget." That night, Robert Dero broke his silence. In a surprise video posted to his personal site, not through social media, he appeared alone in a dark room, lit only by a single desk lamp. "I've stayed quiet because I wanted to see who would step forward," he said. "Now I know. Now it's time to talk." He revealed that he had obtained recordings, real, verified recordings of private conversations between members of the Supreme Court and political donors. The audio, he claimed, included a reference to expediting spotlight authority and using judicial cover as containment. Dero ended the video with a line that echoed across the country. "They didn't build Spotlight to protect America. They built it to protect themselves from us." Overnight, protest sites turned into camps. Students, veterans, teachers, they all came. They held up phones playing Dero's video on loop. Meanwhile, Jasmine received another anonymous message, this time with an audio clip. It was a voice, cold, certain. "If she won't stand down, we'll escalate. Don't let the bench fall into enemy hands." No name, no signature. But the message was clear. This wasn't politics anymore. This was war over who owned the truth. The Capitol was wrapped in tension, as if the building itself knew something dangerous was coming. Hours before the scheduled hearing, police lined the hallways. Reporters rushed through metal detectors. Protesters gathered outside in the rain, chanting under umbrellas. Some holding signs that read, "Protect Truth," others shouting, "Try her." Jasmine Crockett sat alone in her temporary office, facing a small mirror. Her eyes were tired but clear. She hadn't slept much. The letter from the House Oversight Committee had arrived only 36 hours earlier, signed by Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. The charge: possible collusion with foreign agents. No evidence was attached, only the leaked NSA memo. A hearing under those terms was unheard of. No due process. No classified briefing. Just a stage and a spotlight. At 9:58 a.m., a Capitol aide knocked twice and opened the door. "They're ready for you." Jasmine stood and walked calmly toward the chamber. Inside, the room buzzed with journalists, political aides, and lawmakers on edge. Cameras rolled silently. At the long table in front, Jasmine sat down and faced the committee. At the center sat Greene, her expression hard and confident. She leaned forward into her microphone. This committee has convened to assess whether Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett knowingly participated in actions that compromised national security and contributed to recent unrest tied to the Operation Spotlight leak. Jasmine raised an eyebrow. May I respond, or will I be interrupted before I start? Murmurs spread. Greene didn't answer. She turned to her notes. Let the record show that Congresswoman is avoiding a direct denial. Jasmine leaned in too. The mic let the record show you asked no question. A laugh escaped from someone in the back row. Greene straightened. You were named in a classified memo. You had contact with foreign diplomats. You've defended Robert D. Rowe, who's now leaked audio implicating federal judges. You're either dangerously naive or deliberately reckless. Which is it? Jasmine's tone was cool. Are you asking me to confess to doing my job as a lawmaker? Or is this just theater before the real charges are invented? Greene smirked. You think you're above scrutiny? I think I'm the wrong woman to frame. The room went silent. A large screen flickered to life behind Greene. A chart appeared, Jasmine's name circled, linked to images of Dyro, several diplomats, and symbols from the leaked Operation Spotlight memo. Tell us, Congresswoman Greene said. Do you deny knowing about this program before the leak? Jasmine didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached into her bag and placed a small device on the table. What's that? Greene asked. Jasmine pressed a button. It's audio-filled. The room, it was a man's voice, .com/cold. Contain her before the next drop. Use emergency classification if needed. She can't be allowed to redirect public narrative. The room exploded with noise. Some lawmakers shouted. Others leaned forward in shock. Greene's mouth fell open. Jasmine spoke over the chaos. That recording was sent to me anonymously 2 nights ago. It's part of a longer conversation between 2 federal officials discussing how to silence dissent. Specifically, me. Greene fumbled with her microphone. That's unverified. That's fake. Jasmine smiled for the first time. You're welcome to verify it. I've already submitted the metadata to CNN and the UN Ethics Committee. One of the committee members, Representative Daniel Vance, leaned into his mic. Madam Chair, I suggest we recess and review this new evidence. Greene's eyes flashed. No, she's trying to derail the hearing. Jasmine stood up slowly. This hearing isn't about law. It's a stage for people like you to shout while others bleed. So let me do you a favor, Marjorie. She walked toward the panel desk, held up a manila folder, and dropped it in front of Greene. Inside are names. Judges, politicians, contractors, people tied to Operation Spotlight, people who approved it. Some of them fund your campaign. Agree. Didn't move. I know who built this machine, Jasmine continued. And I know why they're scared now, because people are finally listening. Aide after aide rushed forward. Committee members huddled in whispers. Outside, news alerts exploded across phones. Crockett turns tables in oversight hearing, drops new spotlight evidence. Greene's voice cracked as she tried to regain control. This hearing is adjourned until further notice. But Jasmine was already walking out. Outside the building, the rain had stopped. Reporters sprinted after her, shouting questions. She said nothing until she reached the black car waiting at the curb. The White House was quieter than usual. No press briefings. No helicopter noise. Just closed doors and tight whispers. Inside the West Wing, President Ethan Reardon sat alone in the Roosevelt Room, eyes fixed on the muted television. Jasmine Crockett's Oversight Committee hearing was playing again, her voice steady, her words cutting. The audio clip she played had sparked global headlines. But it was the manila folder now confirmed to contain names of judicial figures, donors and classified contacts that had shaken the system. He rubbed his forehead and reached for the secure line. Get me Jasmine Crockett. In a hotel room across D.C., Jasmine sat with Malik, going over the next phase of their release plan. More files were ready. More names. But the pressure was closing in. The room was being watched. She could feel it. Black SUVs had circled the block 3 times in an hour. She didn't flinch anymore. It was expected now. Malik looked up. The president's calling. She hesitated, then answered. Congresswoman Crockett, President Reardon said, his voice firm but low. I'm asking, no. I'm urging you to slow this down. No, Mr. President, Jasmine replied. It's already moving. You know what this could do? He said to the courts. It's international relations. This leak, it's a wildfire. It's not a leak, she said. It's a reckoning. There was silence on the line. He spoke again, more carefully. Then at least give me 1 day. 1 day to brief our allies and prepare. You want justice? Let's not collapse the country to get it. Jasmine didn't answer right away. Finally, she said, you have 24 hours. After she hung up, Malik handed her a new document just decrypted from the second Spotlight file drop. It was a payment log anonymous donors transferring money to a federal PAC tied to judicial appointments. The most frequent donor, private. Security firm named Veros Group. Jasmine frowned. That name again? She had seen it before, briefly mentioned in Robert Dero's original notes, flagged as a possible field contractor. She picked up her phone and called Dero's assistant, hoping for answers, but the number was disconnected. Later that evening, an unlisted number sent Jasmine a short, blurry video. It showed Robert Dero stepping onto a private jet at an undisclosed airfield. No luggage, no security. It's just one bag and a man in a gray coat following him up the stairs. Attached was a single message. He didn't leave. It was taken. Jasmine dropped the phone. Cross town in a private intelligence office inside the Pentagon's old cyber division. 3 men reviewed an internal report. She's not backing. Down, said the first man. The second nodded. Then we changed the game. The third, a former Veros Group executive, leaned forward. Time for the counter-narrative. That night, a new video surfaced on encrypted social channels. It appeared to show Jasmine meeting with a Qatari diplomat in a dim restaurant. They exchanged envelopes. No sound, no timestamp. Within minutes, the video was picked up by conservative networks. Greene tweeted it with the caption, "Foreign money. Foreign mouthpiece." Jasmine's team knew instantly the footage was fake. She had never met with any Qatari official in private, and she had the travel logs to prove it. Malik traced the footage to a deepfake generator linked to a known Veros Group server. CNN published a full forensic breakdown before dawn, proving it was doctored. But the damage was already done. The narrative had begun to split. Outside, protesters clashed again. Supporters of Jasmine called the video state-sponsored slander. Her opponents called her a traitor. The divide deepened. At the United Nations, delegates from Germany, Brazil, and South Africa held a joint press conference. We demand full disclosure from the United States, the German ambassador said. If Operation Spotlight was used to spy on us, this is not just an internal scandal. It is an international violation. Jasmine watched the broadcast from her hotel. Her phone rang again. Strange voice. Calm. American accent. Slightly distorted. You're causing chaos. Good people could get hurt. Who are you? She asked. We're the ones who clean up when truth gets messy. She hung up. Minutes later, her passport status was changed in the federal system. Revoked. No warning, no explanation. Just one line. Security risk, class Omega. She was now officially grounded. In a windowless office beneath Capitol Hill, Marjorie Taylor Greene reviewed new polling data. Public opinion on Jasmine had fractured. Half the country now believed she was under foreign influence. Half called her a hero. She smiled. Perfect storm. A staffer entered. We've located the next file. Dump Malik's cloud drive. Don't block it, Greene said. Let her leak it. Then we bury her in it. Back in the hotel, Jasmine met with a trusted foreign correspondent from Al Jazeera. They arranged a live stream uncensored, encrypted, and global. As the camera went live, she looked directly into the lens. I was elected to protect this country's truth. I never imagined I'd need protection from it. She began to read names. One by one, donors, judges, PAC officials, security firms. A quiet horror filled the air. No theatrics, just data. Just facts. By the time the stream ended, 42 new names had been revealed. One of them was a sitting Supreme Court justice. Outside her hotel, an unmarked black van pulled up. Inside, someone adjusted a headset. On my signal, said the voice, but Jasmine was already gone. The room was empty. Only a note remained, taped to the chair. ChatGPT said, "A pale sun rose over Washington, D.C. But the city felt darker than ever. Roads near Capitol Hill were barricaded. National Guard units patrolled rooftops. Helicopters hovered in wide, silent circles. Overnight, the Department of Homeland Security had issued a Level 5 domestic security alert, the first since 2001, inside a sealed courtroom under emergency protocol. Supreme Court justices gathered. But there were no reporters, no public seating, no cameras, just thick folders, sealed doors. And one topic on the agenda: emergency reclassification of media content as destabilizing activity. Justice Amy Coney Barrett sat at the head of the chamber. Her face was calm, but her hands never stopped moving, flipping pages, checking dates, underlining words. "This is not censorship," she said to the room. "This is containment. There is a difference." Across the table, two justices exchanged a nervous glance. One leaned forward. "You're asking us to redefine public speech as a threat to constitutional order." Barrett didn't blink. "I'm asking us to protect the institution before it collapses." Another voice spoke, Justice Almeida, the newest member. "And if this leaks?" Barrett closed the file in front of her. "Then the public will see that even the highest court fears truth. We can't afford that." The vote was pushed to the next day. No unanimous consent. Too much at stake. Too much fear. Across the city, Jasmine Crockett moved quietly through the service corridors of a safe house borrowed from an old friend at the State Department. She was now a fugitive in her own country, might formally charged but hunted all the same. Her live stream from the night before had gone global. Translated, mirrored, re-uploaded across every continent. 42 names, connections between judges and private donors, surveillance firms tied to political campaigns. And one name in particular had drawn immediate fire: Justice Ronald Easton, tied to a $3.8 million transfer from a PAC that shared an office address with Vero's group. Within hours, journalists surrounded his home. Easton denied everything. Then, suddenly, he resigned. No explanation, no press conference. It's just a letter posted online. "I no longer believe the system I serve is worthy of the trust I once had in it." The statement hit like a bomb. 2 more resignations followed. Meanwhile, Robert Dyro, who many feared was dead, was spotted in Iceland, entering the U.S. Embassy under heavy guard, but the footage was grainy and the embassy denied it. That afternoon, Jasmine received an encrypted message from a burner. Device Malik had secured the night before. "They're planning the trial. They want to brand media as domestic instability. Supreme Court tomorrow." She stared at the screen. "They're moving faster than we thought." Malik stepped in from the hall. "Then we go faster." He handed her a flash drive. "Robert's last drop," he said. He uploaded it to a dead server days before he vanished. Metadata shows a private meeting Justice Barrett, a Pentagon liaison, and 2 former NSA lawyers. The video was short, blurry, but the voices were unmistakable. Barrett's: "If the Constitution must bend to preserve national stability, then we must bend it quietly." Malik looked up. "That's your nuclear option." Jasmine nodded. "Oh, then we drop it." That evening, CNN ran the clip, cleaned, verified, and broadcast live. Within minutes, every major network followed, even Fox. The public reaction was immediate. Mass protests exploded outside federal courthouses in 12 cities. In D.C., the crowd swelled so large it forced emergency rerouting of security personnel from the Supreme Court to the National Mall. That night, Jasmine appeared again, this time in a dark alleyway, live-streamed through a hacked signal. She didn't look like a politician anymore. No suit, no microphone, just a hoodie, a flashlight, and a fire in her voice. If you wanted a trial in secret, she said, here's men in public. Here's our evidence. Here's your shame. Then she played it, full audio from inside Operation Spotlight's planning committee, including high-ranking intelligence officials laughing about how easy it is to scare people with the word security. She ended with a message to the court. You don't protect justice by hiding it. You buried Dairo, you won't bury me. The morning broke over New York with a gray sky and cameras already flashing. Outside the United Nations headquarters, the plaza overflowed with people. Protesters, diplomats, media crews, and riot police lined the square. Flags from every nation hung heavy in the wind. Above it all, a massive screen had been installed overnight, 20 feet tall, already glowing with a countdown clock. Inside the General Assembly, delegates sat in tense silence. Jasmine Crockett stood at the podium, a lone figure in a sea of suits. She wore no official insignia, no congressional pin, just black, simple, clean, unshaken. Behind her, Robert. Dairo sat quietly, alive, safe, unapologetic. His return had stunned the world 3 days earlier. He had been flown in under UN diplomatic protection after revealing audio proof of his forced detainment and a coordinated effort by private contractors to silence him. Jasmine looked up at the room. My name is Jasmine Crockett. Till last week, I served as a U.S. Congresswoman. Today, I serve only truth. The room did not applaud. This wasn't that kind of speech. Operation Spotlight was not an accident. It was a blueprint. Designed, funded, and hidden by a coalition of courts contractors and elected officials afraid of one thing, the people they claimed to protect. She tapped a small remote. The giant screen behind her lit up. Names, charts, financial trails. Surveillance footage, all of it mapped, archived, verified. The United States government watched its citizens, tracked diplomats, rewrote judicial rules behind closed doors. And when a few of us found out, they called it instability. She looked to the German ambassador. Your diplomats were monitored for attending peaceful protests. To Brazil. Your election monitors were flagged as ideological threats. To South Africa. Your journalists were placed on watch lists for investigating campaign donations. The hall was quiet, but the air was thick. She turned back to the room, and still none of this was leaked from the courts or the intelligence agencies or the lawmakers involved. It came from the outside, from activists, from journalists, from whistleblowers risking prison just to be heard. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. They say institutions are meant to protect us. But institutions only do what people inside them allow. And too many of those people have allowed silence, secrecy, and fear to replace justice. She paused. The countdown hit 0. Behind her, live feeds from every major city lit up the screen. Protests in Paris, Johannesburg, Berlin, Sao Paulo, Karachi, Toronto, Tokyo, Lagos, and Los Angeles. Millions on the streets. Millions with signs. Millions with phones raised high. And over the screen, one sentence: the system is watching. So are we. Back in Washington, chaos had turned into panic. 4 more judges resigned within hours. A Senate committee ordered an emergency ethics review of the Supreme Court. The Veros Group CEO fled the country. Marjorie Taylor Greene went live from a remote compound in Montana, surrounded by barbed wire and armed guards. They want to tear this country apart. She screamed into the camera. They want global law, foreign control. This is war. 2 days later, she was arrested by U.S. Marshals under sealed federal charges. Her capture was broadcast live by 3 networks. She had resisted, rifle in hand. But it didn't matter anymore. The final trial of Operation Spotlight began in a neutral court in The Hague, supported by an emergency vote from the UN Security Council. A new panel of international legal experts would oversee the proceedings with full broadcast access. Jasmine was called to testify first. She brought a single folder. Inside, the original court motion filed by Justice Amy Coney Barrett, the one that began it all. "I want the world to see," Jasmine said, "what power looks like when it no longer respects the people." Robert Dero testified next. His voice was soft, but every word hit like a hammer. "They thought I'd disappear. They made sure I would. But I was never the real threat. Jasmine was. And that's what scared them most, not what I said, but who listened when she spoke." In the months that followed, new systems were built. International transparency protocols. Legal firewalls between contractors and courts. And in the U.S., a Constitutional Clarity Act was passed requiring all federal court motions to be publicly disclosed within 72 hours, unless directly tied to national security, and even then, subject to review by an independent oversight board. Justice Amy Coney Barrett remained under investigation. She never returned to the bench. Jasmine never ran for office again. She said her role was done. Instead, she opened a small institute in Baltimore, a place for students, activists, and journalists to learn about systems, how they work, how they break, and how to hold them accountable. Robert Dero retired from film. He published a memoir titled No Curtain Left. The final scene came quietly. One evening, as a soft rain fell over Washington, Jasmine stood alone outside the Supreme Court steps. No cameras, no lights, just her and the columns. She placed a candle at the base and whispered, "Not burned, not broken, just exposed." As she turned to leave, someone from the shadows called out, "Do you think we won?" She paused, then answered, "We stopped the lie. That's a start." And she disappeared into the night.